I'm the champ, I'm the champ. Yeah. I'm the champ, I'm a champion. Yeah, yeah. I'm the champ, I'm the champ. Yeah. I'm the champ, I'm the champion. Yeah, yeah. I'm the champ.
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy JR coming back with another NBA 2K19 video. Man, there has been so many tweets sent from the developers that I do apologize if this video is really long, but there's so much stuff, and some of the stuff you may already know, some of the stuff you may not. So I'm just going to get it right into it here and just try to make the video as short as possible. Let's see here. So first thing that I want to go over that I left off from the other video is I got tweeted to Mike Wong and said, what about throwing alley-oops, because this year it was terrible. People were typically scared to throw a lot on a fast break. He came back and said alley-oops are more useful in 19 and easier to complete in general. Defensively, players do a better job at intercepting oop passes, so we were able to relax some of the throwaways that we need to have in there to balance them out. So, you know, this year alley-oops were terrible, really hard to complete them even on a fast break when you're throwing to an athletic finisher wide open. So I'm glad that's improved. Hopefully it actually carries over to 2K19. Someone tweeted at him and said, what do you mean by special defensive stop resolutions for locks and rim protectors? Is paint defense fixed? It was absolutely horrible on 18. Then he said, on-ball defense has been reworked. What about the paint defense? Mike Wong came back and said, paint defense is much stronger and pretty well balanced. A lot more contact down there too. So it really seems that lockdown defenders could possibly be one of the best builds in the game. Mike said locks will be able to stonewall ball handlers more frequently than most other arcs. Rim protectors unlock grab blocks and other content. Both arcs can cancel offensive badges and takeover skills. They can also knock the ball free when clotting with receivers. So it seems if a lockdown is in takeover mode and he's guarding another archetype that's in their takeover mode, the defensive player in takeover mode has more of an advantage because they're able to stop any archetype that's in that mode. So I mean, that could be really useful to be able to really play better defense, especially when they're in that mode, because it seems like it could be really overpowered. So I don't know, I mean, it may be important to have a lockdown defender on your team this year with a primary lock, you know, maybe shooter second, slasher second, however you want to handle that. Let's see, another guy tweeted and said, I just want to know why post fades were so bad in 2K18, which of course they were. Like, they were not evaluated differently in 18. Mike came back and said they were evaluated like any other shot in 18 since they're much easier to anticipate and contest. It was easy to shut them down. 19 more accurately reflects post shots to real life. Good post players aren't bothered by defenders as much, so it's more about executing the shot. You know, 17, a post fade was the cheese. 18, it was kind of garbage. So it seems like they came back and hopefully fixed that as well. Another guy said, is anything being done about centers missing lightly contested standing layups in 2K19? Are a post scorers getting fade ace back? Also, post scorers shoot a lot of contested shots, which should be on timing and not openness. He came back and said layup defense is modeled better this year, so the makes and misses make more sense. And yet I agree with you about emphasizing timing over openness when it comes to post fades, hooks. And then he says, see my last tweet, which is what I just read one moment ago. And somebody asked him any talk about the pull-ups, and basically he says for shot creators, pull-ups equals money, which I would hope, since that's the primary thing that they would actually be doing. So you guys remember from 2K17, you got that little boost from the stick if you shot it, and if you timed it perfectly, it would give you a green arrow. A guy tweeted to him and said, great question, referring to the shot mechanics when shooting with the shot stick. Is there a shot percentage increase or rating boost as in previous versions of 2K? Mike Wong just came back and said the stick and button have the same effect. So this year that basically says shooting with the X button, which is what I preferred anyway, over the analog stick. Both are going to have the same percentage of the shot actually going in. So I felt like that was pretty important thing to go over as well. Another guy asked him, is there anything different that shot creators might be able to do this year to score over defenders? So I found this to be pretty cool, especially if I can actually do it with that archetype. He said shot creators get a boost when shooting advanced jumpers like spin and step back shots, can also break ankles with step back jumpers when in takeover. So shot creators will be the only build that can actually break a defender off with a step back jumper. So basically, when a shot creator is in takeover mode and they hit that step back, they can put a defender on their back with that move, and they are the only build that can actually do that. So I thought that was pretty cool. That'd be pretty cheesy as well. Another guy tweeted at Mike Wong and said, will glass cleaners be better in 19 because in 18 there were no point in making one because anyone could grab rebounds. So a glass cleaner got a lot of love this year. One of my favorite additions is in takeover. They get a target on the floor showing where the ball is going to go on missed shots. Gives them a huge rebounding advantage. They also get elbow clearouts after off boards prior to putbacks. So I mean, that sounds like, you know, the glass cleaners are going to be OP as well, kind of like they were in NBA 2K17. A guy also tweeted to the last response that I went over. He said, this only for pure glass cleaners or builds with rebounding secondary too. So that takeover is only going to apply to primary glass only. The takeover skill will only apply again to your primary. So if you're a sharpshooter, that's what your takeover, primary sharpshooter, that's what your takeover will apply to. Secondary builds, if you have that in your archetype, they actually do not get anything from the takeover system except for that rating increase, which right now I believe it's set at 5. And then I thought this could be really OP, but another guy came back and said, will this target be visible to the whole team or exclusive to the glass cleaner on his screen? So of course they came back and said it's just for the glass and only when he's hot. So again, if you have a glass cleaner on your team, you're not going to be able to see where that rebound is going to go. It's only going to be set on one screen. So getting into some information with the playmakers, somebody asked, how will playmaker takeover badge be? Will it be like Grand Badge in 2K17 or different? So he responded with, playmakers are the only one who can put someone on their back with an ankle breaker. They also get boost to their shot after bringing someone off the dribble and an extra dimer-like buff to their teammates. So that's cool. Again, shot creators are the only build that can put someone on their back with a step back. And then playmaker primary is the only build that can actually break somebody off the dribble with a normal dribble move. So to get into some slasher information here, somebody asked anything new for slashers this year. He came back and said slashers get a big boost when using Euro, Cradle, Hop Step, and Spin Lays, and boosted contact shots in takeover. Dunkers unlock special contact dunks that no one else can get. So that's going to be a really good reason to make a slasher, especially if they have buffed the animation glitch. If not, then of course the archetypes are going to be really outbalanced like they were in 2K18. I really feel like they fixed that glitch, which I hope they did, just to, you know, keep that balance within the game. But I guess that's something that we will have to wait and see as well. Another guy asked, so Mike, what if your glass cleaner primary and an athletic finisher for secondary is takeover mode for just your primary skill, or you get additional moves and whatnot for your secondary skill set, and what if you're a pure? So he came back and said takeover just applies to your primary arc until you reach 94 overall. At that point you get to, for both primary and secondary arcs, if you're a pure, you stay hot for longer at 94. So that'll kind of give you a reason to grind to that rank, because like he just said, if you're pure, you're going to be able to use your takeover badge longer, which would be really beneficial. And then he says that if you're a dual archetype, then you're going to get animations for both as well. So I guess you do get a boost to both, just you have to be at 94 to get that. And then he asked, another guy came back and asked anything new with a post scorer. He says post scorers get a lot in takeover, power backdowns, clear outs, spin drive content unique to their arcs, boosted hooks, fades, shimmies, and he basically said that C Hoop's 4 Life hook post scores up this year, which is, again, if you don't know what that is, it's another Zach Timmerman. He's another developer for 2K19 as well. And then somebody asked about an athletic finisher takeover badge. Is it the same as slasher, or is it slightly different? He said mainly the same, but they can clear guys out in the paint for dunks since it's tougher for them to beat guys off the dribble. So athletic finishers, you're going to have a more power type takeover, and then slashers, you will actually be able to use your speed to get to the rim as well. So slightly different, but basically the same animations as far as that goes. So dribblers, someone asked, can we steal momentum behind the back? He said yes, and it no longer requires you to hold sprint. So if that was a move that you did this year, it's kind of weird. I don't really see how you'd be able to do that without holding turbo, but that's just the way that they've had it set up. So I guess we'll definitely figure out how to do that. He also talks about paint protectors. They get exclusive block content, snatch grab blocks, and smash shot percentages on good contests. They also cancel offensive takeover skills when they're hot, and you cannot clear out a hot rim protector. So like I was saying a moment ago, it really seems like the defensive builds are going to be really OP, especially when they're in their takeover mode. Really going to be important to have that, especially if you're running pro-am. It's really going to help you stop some of these high-powered offensive players. Someone said you gave us a lot of info about takeover, but could you give us more info about how the takeover will help affect shooter stretches? Thanks. And then it says, could you guys retweet so he could see this? So he finally replied to that tweet and said, so for your shooters, it says, takeover modifies shot windows for shooting builds to make it easier to hit perfect timing. It also boosts or unlocks the full potential of the shooting badges. For example, with Limitless, only Sharps and Takeover can bomb from curry range with any effectiveness. So based on that tweet, it sounds like this is one of the shooting nerfs that they have put into the game. So I guess we'll see how that goes as well. Limitless range is one of the badges that I use the most, especially when I made my shooter, and I feel like that's going to be the first build that I make on the game. But I don't know, it seems like they've been really nerfed this year, but again, we will definitely see. Another guy tweeted, what type of takeover do US Lockdown get? And again, it says shot contest boost, ability to cut off dribblers and make them pick up the ball, cancel out offensive turnover skills, boosted steals including exclusive ability to knock ball loose on catches, advantage in securing 50-50 balls, chuck grab with fewer fouls, and more aggressive content. So again, I mean, if you can make a defender that can, maybe shoot threes pretty well, kind of like a Bruce Bowen type player, I think that could be a really, really good build this year. Someone asked him about what Sharps get this year. They asked, what's the word for pure Sharps, Mike? Do they still get those green animations? He came back and said Sharps are the only builds who get the green animations, example the showboat shot landings. So I mean, I guess that's a pretty cool feature. Most people would like to see that with each build whenever you get a green, but if you're a shooter, then you're going to have that for sure. Someone came back and said, can greens actually look like wet where they are all net instead of 18, where a green bounced off the rim, then top of the backboard and finally went in? So he's basically just asking, will greens be a full-on swish, or will they actually bounce around? He said every now and then there will be some rim drama, but for the most part, almost every green release will be all net, which of course I agree with that. If you get a green, then it should be nothing but net. Someone asked, does that mean a playmaking shot creator would be able to get drops or primary playmakers? And that was into regard of the question where it says, where Mike Wayne tweeted back and said, playmakers are the only ones who can put someone on their back with an ankle breaker. He came back and said only primary playmakers, but primary shot creators are the only ones who can break ankles with step back jumpers. So again, I said this a moment ago, primary playmakers is the only build that can put people on their backs with an ankle breaker, and then primary shot creators are the only build that can put a defender on their backs with a step back jumper. And then someone asked, this feels like a dumb question, but all the info you're providing on the player archetypes, is that just for my part, or is that for the NBA players too? He basically came back and said NBA players and my players use the same system. Someone asked, how long does the takeover mode typically last, or does it all depend on your in-game performance? He said takeover length depends on your overall rating. Bombs can get it, but it's super short, significantly longer for good players. And then someone asked, whenever he is talking about takeover, he says he's always referring to your primary archetype. And the question to that was, when you say sharps are the only arcs that get the green light animations, is it a pure sharp or sharpshooter first? So as long as you're a sharpshooter first or primary sharpshooter, then you'll get those landing celebrations. So someone asked, since we can't green some other shots, will our shots be automatically changed when contested? Example, if I jab step my opponent and he slabs back and I pull, will the jump shot I have equipped trigger, or will a contested animation happen? He said yes, your shot changes to the contested shot when you got a guy all up in your jersey. I'm assuming you guys don't like that feature, question mark? Which, I mean, if you are getting heavily defended, unlike 2K18, then that should change the way you release a shot. But if you have quite a bit of space, then you shouldn't get that animation. So hopefully they've done a really good job at balancing that. Another question regarding how the shooting will be. Someone asked, what stops pure shots from abusing deep bad shots? Mike Wong came back and said timing is much tougher, and if you get a defender nearby, you can expect to see a lot of bricks. But a pure shot and takeover left wide open with good timing is going to hurt a lot of teams. So this basically just kind of confirms that contested shooting is going to be really difficult this year to hit. Alright, so the last couple of tweets that I've seen lastly, again guys, I do apologize, the video is so long, but there's just so much stuff that I really wanted to let you guys know about. Someone asked, will it be harder to unlock the actual takeover badge, meaning can you earn it in the park, or do you have to play micro only to unlock it? He said you have the ability to use takeover off rip. It's not a badge, it's tied to your arc. You just won't have the full capabilities of your takeover until you get your badges and ratings up, which makes sense. The more you play the game, the better your player will be. Last thing here, someone asked in 2K19, what does my ball handling need to be so I can momentum cross, etc. And he said, of course, it has to be an 86. So that's everything that I've seen, guys. Again, I do apologize for the video being so long. If you watched it this far, I don't have very much 2K19 content, so that's why you're basically seeing the same clip. I really have not played this game in over 2 months, and that was really before I started streaming and recording. So I just use the same information, but I just wanted to let you guys know all the news related to 2K19. If you watched it this far, man, I really appreciate it. If you do me a huge favor, hit that like button and sub if you're new. Until next time, guys, peace.